He hasn't moved in 3 years, not a step, not a sound, not a sign of the giant he used to be, just a statue of grief frozen in the heat, his blindness no longer just in his eyes, but in his soul. Ever since that day, when the only presence that ever reached him vanished, when the echo of soft paws and warm breath disappeared into the wind, leaving him with nothing but silence and stone. But now, as the sun breaks over the horizon and the air holds a breath of something forgotten, he shifts just slightly, barely a breath, like memory tugging at a wound that never closed. Because across the vastness of time and dust, something is approaching something he cannot see, but somehow still feels a heartbeat. He once knew a shadow. He never stopped waiting. For each morning is the same. He rises, not with purpose, but with habit, his massive frame shifting just enough to signal life. And no more he stands in the same patch of earth where the sun hits first. Not because he seeks its warmth, but because once he did long ago beside another heartbeat now gone. The keepers come and go, their voices low, their footsteps gentle offering food. He barely touches, placing it exactly where he can find it, though he never strays far. His ears twitch at distant sounds, but never turn fully, as if waiting for a specific rhythm, a forgotten bark, a soft pad of paws that never comes. Sometimes he tilts his head as though listening for something, just beyond reach, a sound he isn't sure he heard or dreamed of. His walks have shrunk to a narrow circle. His rest always in the same corner, where old scent still lingers, faint and fading, a place worn smooth by memory and weight in the hush of dusk, when even the birds go quiet. He lowers himself slowly into the dust and lets out, a breath deep and low, not of sleep but surrender, and those watching see only a rhino in stillness, unaware that beneath the silence, grief is alive, pulsing quietly, like a wound that never healed. The day they were separated was chaos. Noise clattered. Through the air, metal groaned voices shouted, tires bit into gravel. And in all that panic, something sacred was broken. Bantu could not see, but he felt it. The absence of small paws beside him, the sudden hollowness in the space where warmth used to be. He turned in circles as the ground shifted beneath the transport truck. His ears scanned for the heartbeat that always led him, but nothing came. No bark, no breath, no weight pressing gently against his leg. Only silence and steel and motion that took him. Farther and farther away, he let out a sound. Then deep guttural, not anger, not fear, but a plea. A question that was never answered. When they lowered the ramp at the new sanctuary, he stepped out once and then never again. What lived behind his blind eyes dimmed his steps, shortened until they stopped his food untouched unless placed exactly beneath his mouth. His body endured, but something inside receded as though the thread holding him to the world had snapped, and without it, he floated weightless but heavy, full of something he could never release. And so he sank into stillness, the way others might sink into sleep. Not for a day or a season, but for years, carrying a wound no one could see, shaped like a dog that never came back. Let me pause here for a moment and ask you, where are you listening from? Has there ever been someone in your life, maybe a person, maybe an animal, who remembered you after years apart? A bond you thought was lost, but somehow it still lived on? Share your story in the comments, and if these kinds of quiet, powerful moments speak to you, make sure to follow. There's more to come. Stories that heal, that stay, that remember. It began like nothing, just a shift in the wind, a sound almost too faint to notice a bark, rough and low, carried from far beyond the fence line. It could have been any stray, but something in it struck Bantu like lightning through stone. His ears twitched, then stilled his body. Froze not in fear but in recognition, buried so deep it hurt to feel it rise. Something ancient moved in him, a memory, not of image, but of presence, scent, warmth, rhythm, as if the air itself remembered and whispered it back to him. Across the years, the keepers looked up, too shielding their eyes, as a small figure limped through the grass, dusty, gaunt ears, torn steps uncertain, but eyes locked forward, and for a moment time, folded the way. Light folds over water, revealing something that never truly left Moyo. The name returned like breath. Bantu didn't move, not yet. His heart beat like thunder beneath stillness because hope was dangerous and cruel, and he had learned to live without it. But then the dog stopped, barked once, and that sound split the silence of years, not loud, but full of everything they'd shared. Bantu inhaled sharply, nostrils flaring, head rising, ears seeking that voice, and in that instant the wall cracked, not shattered, not yet, but cracked enough to let a choice in. And with a groan that felt like the earth itself shifting, he lifted one foot, then another, and turned not toward memory, but toward what might still be real, aching with fear and hunger for what was lost, but more than that, drawn forward by a question that could only be answered by stepping into the unknown. He stands still as the dog approaches the air between them, thick with years of absence. Every step Moyo takes feels both too fast and impossibly slow. The ground is silent except for the soft crunch of dry grass under paw. The sun catches in his fur, revealing patches of old scars, reminders of his own survival. His eyes never leave the shape before him, uncertain, yet pulled forward by something deeper than memory. Bantu's ears tilt, his nostrils flare. He does not trust what he cannot see, but the scent is there, faint beneath dust and time, familiar in a way that pierces deeper than thought. The dog stops, a few steps away, says nothing for a breath, then lets out a sound low, soft. Not a bark, but a whine, a question, a plea. And in that moment, Bantu turns slowly, the weight of his body shifting with effort, with trembling, with something caught between fear and need. His head lowers, cautiously, hesitantly, until it meets warmth fur skin, trembling. The contact is brief but electric. The silence around them seems to hold its breath, and then the dog leans in, pressing gently into the massive shoulder that once sheltered him. The recognition is not instant, not loud, but it is total. Something ancient stirs in Bantu, a sound deep and low, escapes his chest, a vibration more than a voice. It is not a cry or a warning, but a surrender, a name spoken without words. His great frame eases just slightly, just enough, and in that space between breath and stillness, the distance of all those lost years collapses. Moyo stays pressed against him, eyes half closed, not moving, not needing to, and Bantu does not pull away, does not freeze. He stays there unmoving, but not alone, not anymore. And though no one speaks, and nothing is said, everything has changed. It begins quietly. The next morning, Bantu rises before the keepers arrive, his ears following the soft shuffle of paws already moving ahead. Moyo glances back, once tail flicking just slightly, and the Rhino steps forward, not out of habit, but with purpose. He follows not because he is led, but because he wants to walk with him again. They move slowly, but the pace is theirs, a rhythm not seen in years. At the water trough, Moyo noses a floating leaf toward Bantu, and when it brushes his snout, he doesn't flinch. He exhales something close to a sigh, then lowers his head to drink, and nearby the dog waits, not watching, not urging, just present that night, for the first time in years. Bantu does not sleep in the farthest corner. He rests beneath the open sky, and Moyo curls beside him. Not touching at first, but close enough. And sometime before dawn, a great head shifts, gently pressing against the small, curled frame beside him. The days that follow are made of small things, shared silence, soft sounds, the comfort of movement without fear. Bantu begins exploring again, not far but further than before, grazing in areas untouched by his presence. Moyo darts ahead, tail high, ears alert, as if reclaiming a territory, once theirs, and slowly the sanctuary changes around them too. The workers speak more softly, less of pity, more of awe. They watch the giant and the dog and say nothing, because what they witness does not need explaining. Sometimes, Moyo will stop mid-step and look back. Bantu pauses too, as if waiting for a silent signal, and when it comes, they move on together. What was broken has not returned, unchanged. It is something deeper, something earned through time, pain, and stillness. Not a return to the old, but the birth of something new made from what never truly died. And in that quiet, unspoken bond, the truth lingers. Love does not end. It waits, transforms. And when it finds its way home, it carries with it the power to begin again. Some bonds ask for no words. They live in silence, in breath, in the space between one heartbeat and another. They survive what time cannot erase and return. Not with noise, but with knowing, the kind that slips quietly back into place, as if it never left. What was broken in Bantu did not vanish. It waited patiently, hidden beneath dust and stillness, until the one who held the missing piece found his way back, not by force, not by fate, but by something older than both. And in that moment, when memory became touch again, when trust rose, from beneath the years, they did not become who they were. They became more, not because nothing was lost, but because what was found was stronger than the loss. Some connections do not fade. They wait in the dark, endure in absence and return. Just when the soul is ready to breathe again,